mentions of people that are close and special to us who have needs and situations and circumstances. And let's just toss our good prayer blanket and let that wrap around our relatives and snuggle them up today and wherever they are and whatever they may be engaged in at the moment, know that we, their friends and relatives and allies from the seventh generation Native American church, are holding them close in that prayer blanket. So, grandfather, grandmother, sacred Mother Earth, ancestors and elders, we call on you now. We come to you to make a good prayer and ask for the help that we and our friends and our allies and our relatives need to help us in a good way at this time. There are many within our circle who have moments and experiences of grief and sorrow. There are many within our circle who are dealing with sickness and illness today. You know even the thoughts and concerns that we have held close to our hearts in those moments and places and spaces that we come and ask you in our own quiet way for the help that we need, for the strength that we need, for the encouragement that we need, for the guidance and the wisdom that we need. Please know that it is our desire to walk in a good way that honors you, that respects the earth, embraces our fellow human, and covers them all in a warm embrace of love and acceptance and unity. We ask this particularly in a day and a time when unity seems and harmony seems to be so far away from what is the desire of the human family. We're so torn. We're so divided. And at the end of the day, we know in our hearts it's not a matter of one or the other being right or wrong as much as it is of our finding the ability to love one another and stand with one another. As Crazy Horse saw for us, that in this day of the seventh generation, that we would be that light that would be shining into a world longing for the light again. That we would, in fact, be that generation, that seventh generation that ushers in a time and a fellowship and a community in which all of the colors of mankind will gather. That we will stand in harmony and unity within the sacred circle of life. And that the tree of life will grow and live once again. And indeed, we will all become as one. Show us that path. Show us that way. Teach us how to walk in a good way so that in fact and indeed we do all find our way into that centeredness in the sacred circle of life. Help us to put our divisions and disagreements aside and behind us and step in to embrace and accept the greater good of all humanity. Give us the courage, give us the strength, and give us the wisdom to live in such a sacred manner. And we will forever stand in much gratitude. Oh. Well, if you look at me this morning, I think most of you will recognize that there's something missing. You look puzzled.
Where's your talk, Robert?
Hmm?
Where's your talk?
Where's my talk? Well, it's not on the iPad today. It's a funny thing that this, did that spill?
No, you're good. You're just about to do it.
Thank you, Maria. When I leave here on a Sunday morning and I close up my iPad and we share our time around the altar and we put everything away and I get into my car and drive away, I start shifting to next Sunday. And I start thinking about, well, what's next Sunday's talk going to be about? What am I going to talk about next Sunday? And, I begin to pray and reflect upon that through the week. And sometimes I'll sit with the iPad or I'll sit with a computer and begin to write. And more often than not, when we get here on Sunday morning, it's an all nice and pretty and poetically prepared talk, which I enjoy sharing, and many of you have expressed your appreciation in hearing and reading. Many, many years ago, when I first began this journey, my friend and my elder, a gentleman by the name of John Winterhawk, he and I were talking in that I had, Rick, you know John very well, and John, you played with John, as have I, in different times along our journey. John is another Native American flute player in this area. And I had been invited to give a talk to a middle school. I think it was Malcolm Bridge Middle School in Oconee County. And I was just so fastidious about, what I'm going to talk about, and all this stuff, and I'm getting all jacked up and caught up in the what ifs and the how tos and what I'm going to say, and I need to have it all written down. And I remember John took my iPad away from me, and he said, "You don't need this," and he touched my heart. And he said, just speak from here. Just speak from here. And I do that often, but it's not that when I do write out a talk that it doesn't come from here, because trust me, it comes from a deep place in my heart when I spend the time of writing something out and doing the research and all of the things that I do to bring what I hope and trust and believe will be good teachings and good medicine and good words of wisdom to share with and among our people. But this week, it was, I spent a lot of time. I didn't have a whole lot of things that I needed to do outside of um, my residence, my apartment in Winder. So I kind of coordinated everything to happen in one day. We had the meeting with Maria, and then the meeting with Molly, and another meeting after that, and then a nice dinner later on with my brother and his family. But for the most part, I've just been hanging around the apartment all week. And there's a beautiful pavilion outside the apartment, and I enjoy just getting out and sitting in the pavilion and breathing in the fresh air and being in that space as much as it can be for and in nature. And trust me, that's a stretch. We have a very, very small little piece of grass over here between one sidewalk and another sidewalk, and the rest of it's just concrete and asphalt. But I appreciate the little stretch of ground that we have that we can consider and call our yard. And there are a couple of trees that are growing over there. One is a beautiful red oak, and I'm not quite sure what the other one is. I'd like to think it's somewhat of maybe a red maple because of what I see and observe in the leaves. John, you would be able to advise me more about what kind of tree that may be. But what I have noticed this week is leaves. Leaves. I'll be sitting there and through the wind or through the breeze, the leaves will begin falling at my feet. They'll begin falling around the pavilion. They're beginning to cover the sidewalk. They're beginning to litter, if you will, that little strip, that narrow strip of grass that we call our yard between the concrete and asphalt of my apartment and that little strip of nature. Leaves. I began first to notice how pretty they were with their different colors, the veins of reds and yellows and greens and burgundies. And then after a few days, their beauty, as I had seen them just a few days earlier, now it's all gone. It's just now just a brown and rotting piece of nature. And so I began to think about leaves. And I began to think about how our lives may reflect at least the cycle of a leaf, and what that leaf, regardless of its life, regardless of its story, regardless of its origin, regardless of the tree from whence it came, what it can teach us. And for a moment, I went back to the spring. I've told you many, many times that one of the most difficult seasons of my life has and probably always will be the winter. I just do not winter well. I don't. Can anyone else relate to that? You know, winter's a harsh season for me. Not only is it cold, but everything is just barren. It was like yesterday, it was full of greenery and life and color, and now all of a sudden in a few days, it's just barren and dark and stark and harsh. But like the leaves leave us not only with the sense that they blessed us with their beauty And if we look for them, there's always medicine in everything if we pay attention to it. Even as simple as something of a leaf, there's medicine there. You look at the life in its veins. You look at the color and the depth and the magic of all that is comprised in the cellular system of that leaf. And in the spring, almost overnight, out of that nakedness and the barrenness of winter, oh, here it is. It's that green. It's starting to leaf up. And before you know it, the whole cacophony of nature is just covered in that magnificent color and that magnificent greenery. And it brings warmth, it brings wholeness, it brings healing, it brings renewal, it brings hope to our lives, that after a long season of barrenness and after a long season of harshness and coldness and darkness and all of the things that are attached with our experiences of our lives, there is that hope and there is that promise that in the spring, life begins again. That's the process of what we talk about in our traditional church, Lucy, in which you've had a lot of experience in, as have I, in the traditional Christian church, in which we speak of being born again. For in order for something to be born again, something first has to die. It just has to die. And that has to do with our ego. And that's where we bring our thoughts and our attention to the 7 sacred teachings, the first of which is what? Humility, which is a surrender and a letting go of our ego so that we can proceed. Once we begin on the sacred knee of humility, we can stand on the footsteps of honesty. We can walk forward with confidence, with courage. We can stand firm with and in respect for one another and for the sacred Mother Earth and Creator itself. And then we elevate beyond that to a level of truth, and then below wisdom, and finally to that sacred space within us all, where Crazy Horse said, when you are there and I am there, then we shall be as one. Such simple things as this are teachings that we can glean and learn for such a simple thing as just a leaf. As it is today, the wind is blowing, and even as I sit here now looking through the windows, I can see the leaves falling from the trees, and soon they will all be bare, and all of the leaves will just be composting on the ground. We may think their beauty is lost. We may think their miracle has expired. But the real lesson that we can gather and garner from the leaf is hope. Is hope. That no matter how dark, no matter how cold, no matter how harsh comes life's experiences and the things that we have to deal with on a day in or day out basis, no matter how bleak any of that may seem, that like the last leaf on the tree, so are we, full and filled with hope. Knowing that although there may be a season, and albeit the season is brief, we will come back to that time and that place and that day in the spring when we look and say, there is life again, and there is hope again. And that is available to us just as much today as it will be 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now. It's all a matter of how we look at and how we think about and how we perceive things. Tom gave a beautiful example when we were speaking earlier, in which he mentioned a friend of his who was having problems with his knee. And the man was kind of caressing his knee, if I'm recalling the conversation correctly. Tom asked, well, what are you doing, brother? And he said, I'm appreciating my knee. I'm appreciating my knee. Now, he could have very well said, oh, my knee hurts. It's in such terrible pain, and on and on and on. Now, think about the energy that gets transferred to that joint in our leg, and what a difference it makes if we look at it and caress it with love and grace and say, I am appreciating it. Or if we're caught up in the angst of how much it hurts and how much it's uncomfortable. It's all a matter of perspective. It's all a matter of how we look at things and view things. And at any given moment, we can switch that. So today, I'd just like to offer you a very simple lesson of the last leaf. Because when it's all said and done, and it's all gone, at least we can hold on to with the confidence and the belief of something as simple as hope. As hope. And know that through our good prayer, and know that through the energies that we invest in things, no matter what life's experiences may be, that we can shift it on a dime from appreciating or getting caught up in the angst. And that's all and always within the freedom of our own hands and our own thoughts and our own convictions and beliefs and ways of looking at things. So today I encourage you, although the leaves are falling and there's a lot of beauty left in them, and soon there'll be just a pile of things that the landscaper will come and rake up or blow away. At the heart of it all is a thing of beauty, and so it is with you, and so it is with me. And so let us step into that beauty today. Let us, if we hold on to the tree, if we hold on to the branch, and when and if we are that last leaf to fall, by golly, there's still hope for us no matter what. And so this is what I would like to share with you today, and just some lessons that I've learned from sitting on a bench in the pavilion, watching the leaves fall. And I trust and I pray that somehow it blesses your heart and gives you a bit of encouragement and inspiration to move forward and live your life in a good way. And to live your life with bright future and a bright promise of no matter how dark things may seem to be for us today, there's hope. There's always hope, and upon that we can stand with trust and confidence and great courage. Aho. We come now to our time at the altar for prayer. For the benefit of those of you who are new, and particularly you, Molly, as you'll be putting together a nice article, I hope, for us, and explain all of the things we spoke when you and I were together last week about some of the sacraments that we use here on our altar: the tobacco, the sage, the sweetgrass, and the cedar. There's somewhat of a protocol, or at least a method through which we move our prayers. We begin with floor water. And when you dip your hands into the floor water and inhale that fragrance, it connects you with the sacred Mother Earth. The essence of it, it just explodes in your experience. And feel your way of how that connects you with the sacred Mother Earth. And then we move to a place of letting things go. If we were meeting outside, we would have a fire for ourselves, but we can't have a fire inside. So we do the best we can, and we have a charcoal. Tobacco is looked at as that medium between our prayer, between our breath, between our spirit and our heart, into that with that of the Creator. And so if there are things that we're bringing with us today that we feel no longer serve us or have value to us as to how we live and walk in a sacred manner, and if there's some conviction that maybe today is a day we might want to consider letting that go, we have the sacrifice, the letting go bowl. And we can speak that onto and into the tobacco and place it there on the charcoal, and we watch the white smoke of surrender make its way to the heart, the ears, and the breast of Creator. And we carry it no more. And then through hope, we move to make a new prayer for ourselves. And we do this by making prayer ties, which we take a piece of the scarlet cloth, a pinch of tobacco, and begin to form a little pouch. And as we do, we're placing our prayer, our hope, our request for the things that we need, for the help that we need, for the healing that we need. Then we secure the pouch with a piece of the cloth or the twine. This is always a hard thing for me to do. I always feel like I'm all thumbs when it comes to this. And then we place the prayer ties into our container. We collect these through the year when we come to the spring equinox ceremony, which is that time when new life begins and and the leaves begin to turn green and show their life again. We take the prayer ties that have been collected from the people all of the year and we'll place them into a fire. In the spring equinox, it's time of new beginnings, new opportunities, a new day, new chances, that day of being born again. And all that didn't serve us in a good way, or all of the prayers that we placed into our container, we put them into the fire and we start all over again with a new beginning and new opportunities. Very, very profound ceremony. The sage is here, the sweetgrass, the cedar, all of the sacraments are on the altar. So I'd ask you now to come and make your good prayer, and let this be your time to spend here at the altar asking for the help that you need. And Rick, if you would be so blessing us with your flute, we'd be honored to have that.